It was a big year, and I think as we continue to move into the future, we're going to realize how much we really got done this year. It's pretty incredible. So I want to look ahead now into the year we're moving into. And I want to start with a little story that happened to me this year. And I should thank you all because this happened when I went to a UU Ministers Retreat in Florida. And I'm lucky enough to have the kind of job where I have time to continue my education and improve as your minister. So I went to this 3-day workshop in Florida. And I was on a track that was about leadership development. It was about how I could develop myself better as a leader and how I could help develop a congregation. A UU congregation is just full of leaders. And how do we better develop them and empower them to do their stuff? So when we came in the second day after lunch, we had been meeting in, this pretty classic convention room. It was a little bigger than this. Everyone was facing that way, and tables and chairs, and presenters were up in front. When we got back from lunch, though, everything was cleared out, and all the chairs were around the sides. And they broke us up into groups. So first they took 5 people, and they had tape down the room, dividing it into thirds. So there was a third here, a third in the middle, and a third over there. They took 5 people, and they brought them over to this third, and away from where the rest of us could hear, they gave them some secret instructions. And they gave them a dry erase board and some markers. Then they came back over and they took about 15 more people and they put them in this middle group. And I didn't hear at first the instructions they gave, but I later learned they said, mind the lines. Okay? So those 2 lines of tape, that was their instruction. Mind the line. That's it. That's what they said. Mind the line. Then they came back. There's about 80 more of us. About 100 people in the class. They took the 80 of us that were left and they brought us down to this far third over here. And they put us here and they said, okay, no instructions. Go. So, and then they just let that play out for 45 minutes. So this is what happened. I was in this group down here. I was in this 80, okay? And so for about the first 5 minutes, we were just kind of wandering around here like, you know what's going on here? I don't know. You know? And just like Luciana was looking at me, we looked at each other. We had no idea what was going on. So for about 5 minutes, we mulled around and we started to get curious. So we kind of snuck up to this line and leaned over it a little bit and asked this group, like, do you know what's going on? Well, we were just told to mind the line. That's all we know. So I said, well, what will happen if we cross it? We're not really sure. I think maybe we're supposed to stop you, but I don't know. So I was like, all right, let's see what happens. And a couple of us stepped over the line. Nothing happened. No alarms went off. So we kind of wandered around with them and talked to them a little bit. And we started to get curious. Here, kind of inched our way up to this piece of tape, tried to kind of lean in. It sounded like they were planning a worship service, which I was like, that's strange. I'm going to see what happens. So we kind of stepped over that piece of tape. Again, nothing happened. We kind of walked up to them, and indeed they were creating a worship service. And it didn't seem like a particularly interesting worship service either. So kind of started to bug them a little bit playfully, like friends will do sometimes, and, try to distract them or give them funny ideas. And then, they were like, we have a task, guys, come on, leave us alone. So, okay, we left them alone, and then we looked at this tape again, like, what is the deal with this tape? You use hate false illusions of barriers, right? Let's tear up the tape, we decided. So about 30 of us really kind of meekly went out the tape first, looked around. We looked at the leaders, kept our eye on the leaders, people were given the instructions. Started to peel it up slowly, put up in half. Okay, so there we go, peeled up the tape. Peeled it all up, we got the other one, and we started making art all over the floor with it, because what else were we going to do? We didn't know, we hadn't been given any instructions. So we just started making art and sitting around and singing hymns, bugging those people up there still every once in a while. And after 45 minutes of basically that, finally the 2 leaders said, scene, end, and it all ended. We spent the next day talking about what had happened. And I don't have time to share all the insights, but there were many, and I'm going to share a few with you that I think really helped me understand our community better. Because I was really in a group I'm not used to being in. I'm used to having instructions, being really explicitly called into leadership in this community, but it doesn't take long for, I think, anyone who's in leadership in a group to forget that when you're down here, it's not obvious how to get there, whether you want to or not. It's not obvious how to get in leadership. And in fact, in any group or community, when we're in that kind of 80% of uncharged people, what do? Pull up the tape. Make pictures, sing a song. We don't know. We haven't been instructed, so we just kind of start playing. Sometimes it's helpful, sometimes it's not, but we don't know. No one invited us into any kind of leadership. And I really started to realize how much we need to do a better job of that. There's kind of two parts of that. There's people who've been in leadership a long time, who are kind of ready, like Paul was talking about, to take a step back. And then there's people who are really ready to step in. But there needs to be trust, right, that both of those things are going to happen. That if I step out of this position, that someone's going to step into it. And that if I step into a position, that there's really going to be space for me to be in that position. So that stepping up and stepping back piece was a real aha for me. Another one was that sometimes energy has to die in a place for it to be reborn somewhere else, which is a little uncomfortable sometimes, but I think we actually saw that with adult RE this year. It kind of died. There was no one holding it. And, Jackie and John came and said, hey, we're ready to rebirth this now. And they did. They were able to really put their stamp on it in a beautiful way and really bring it back up into an important part of this community. But it had to die first for that to happen, it turned out. And there might be some other places like that too in the congregation, and we need to be okay with that. What we really need to be is flexible about following great ideas when they come to us and being okay with letting go of some stuff when the energy's not there. Sometimes you got to do both those things. So that's one way to talk about this in words. I'm going to try a little bit different way to talk about it now with some moving pictures. We call them, I guess, movies these days. And I'll just talk about this while we watch it. So, believe it or not, this guy right here is kind of what a great idea first looks like when it emerges. It's all by itself on a hill, kind of looking lonely and foolish. That's a great idea at first, okay? And really the important moment in the life of a great idea is when a second person comes and joins in, because that second person wasn't the leader, but gave some important permission to say, it's okay to be up with this fool. There might be some real joy in it. There's something to this idea that needs to be explored. So let's watch these two for a second. You don't necessarily want to emulate their dance moves, but you may want to emulate what you see happening here, because this one great idea, once it has a second follower, a kind of leader, quickly gets actually a third. A third person will come in. And this is a really, again, not dance moves you want to emulate, but the leadership of followship is what we're really talking about here. People stepping up to be leaders, saying it's okay to follow. And when you get a third person behind an idea, momentum really starts to build. So that 6 people can suddenly get behind it. And suddenly your idea can have 12 people there. It's amazing what happens when those second and third people join. People who are sitting around on the sidelines a little nervous suddenly start to run towards your idea as fast as they possibly can. Because the truth is, everyone wants to be there doing that. But people need to give them permission so they can. That fool on the hill who was all by himself is now surrounded by dozens of people who probably wanted to be dancing the whole time and needed a couple people to give them that permission. Okay? Now, this has an important lesson for us, because we can do this here. We can learn to be flexible enough to follow it. Now, what I want to show you here, I think all the lights are off. It might be a little hard to see this at first, but these are starlings. Okay? Starlings are pretty small birds. They're prey to everyone. Everyone picks on the starlings. So they get together in groups of tens of thousands, sometimes hundreds of thousands, and they form what's called a murmuration. A murmuration. And when they gather in these murmurations, and I'll post this video on our website so you can see it better, they are incredible. They are suddenly forces to be reckoned with. And what you can't tell is who's leading this group. No leader. Everyone is following each other. Where the energy moves, they move. And you can see these bursts of pulses of energy that pulls them to the left or right. All of them just silently following each other. Where the energy is, that's where they go. So what I want to invite you to do now, either keep your eyes open or close them, and just spend a minute thinking about what dream of yours we can help make happen here at Mission Peak. What can you step up into? Or what have you been doing too long? What are you ready to hand off? Take a little moment just to drop into that idea for a moment. Where will our energy move in the coming year? Will you be ready to follow it? I hope so. I'm so grateful for what's been. I'm so curious for what will be. And I'm so excited to move into it with all of you. May it be so. And I believe we have another piece of music from the Peak Rocks. So please rise as you're willing or able. And let's work together.
And this is what we raised for the seminary student.
Thank you.
That's exactly right.
That's right. This is their final engagement with us for the year, so please, one final hand.
Are we still doing the congregational photo?
Yes. Now please join hands. Hear these words of Napoleon Hill. It is literally true that you can succeed best and quickest by helping others to succeed. May we continue to grow into a community that is utterly, at our core, committed to each other. Amen.